Hello, and welcome back to SIBO Mistakes. This is the series where I talk about the biggest mistakes SIBO sufferers are making, and they are keeping you stuck. Stuck with symptoms like bloating, abdominal pain, abdominal distension, cramping, diarrhea, and constipation. If you want to get rid of any of those symptoms, I really hope that you pay attention to the series and watch all of the videos. I have worked with SIBO now for 10 plus years, and I've seen these mistakes again and again and again. And I have helped many people overcome SIBO and feel better and eat the foods they love, largely because I've taught them how to overcome these SIBO mistakes. And now we're finally here. We are at the number one position, the MVP, the SIBO mistake to end them all, the most egregious, the most harmful, and the most common. So, what is it? What is the number one SIBO mistake? It might be believing in SIBO at all. I know, boo, hiss, boo, hiss. I know, it's not a welcome message, but just hear me out. Now that the naysayers have left, let's talk about the science and talk about this practically. We have a big problem in the SIBO community, and not enough experts are talking about it. The testing we use to diagnose this condition, to give people this label, are mediocre at the absolute best, but they're really bad when you dig into the research. Now, I did videos on this years ago on this channel. I have videos about false positive rates with lactulose and false positives with glucose. And hilariously and not surprisingly, they are some of the lower performing videos on this channel. Nobody wants to hear this message, much less a SIBO expert like me. But here's the thing, my little chili babies. The lactulose breath test gives a wild amount of false positives, up to 88% false positives, and the glucose breath test gives about 50% false positives. So what this means for you is that if you received the diagnosis of SIBO using a glucose breath test, there's about a 50-50 roll of the dice shot as to whether or not that positive test result is actually accurate. 50-50, roll of the dice, total crapshoot whether or not you really have SIBO, despite spending the time, effort, and money on that breath test and getting a positive result. Worse, if you got a positive diagnosis using a lactulose breath test, there's upwards of an 88% false positive rate, meaning 88% of people who are told that they have SIBO based on lactulose breath testing, in fact, do not. A lot of you are chasing the wrong goose, and then you're wondering why you can't have yourself a nice goose dinner. Put a different way. Let's say that you went to the doctor and they incorrectly, erroneously diagnosed you with cancer. And then they proceeded to treat the cancer that didn't actually exist. Would you expect that the cancer treatment would actually make you feel better or worse? If you were incorrectly told that you had cancer and then you underwent harsh treatments, stripping treatments like chemotherapy, radiation, or heaven forbid, surgery, you would expect to feel worse, not better. Well, what is the experience of so many people diagnosed with SIBO? They get diagnosed with this condition. They do harsh, stripping, brutal treatments like antibiotics, antimicrobials, restrictive diets, and the elemental diet. They dig themselves a deeper, deeper, deeper hole, and they feel worse and worse and worse and worse. And they wonder why they don't feel better. It might be that you've been chasing the wrong thing the entire time. It might be that SIBO was never correct, and that all of the treatments you've done have made the underlying real condition that much worse. And now to add to it, now you have medically-induced PTSD. You're scared, you're anxious, you're freaked out, you think your body's against you, you think that you've got a boogeyman in your tummy, and it just snowballs from there. The treatments we use for SIBO are harsh. They're not a joke. Even just something as simple as dietary manipulation and having somebody do low FODMAP is hard. It's a hard diet to maintain, especially the way they use it in the SIBO community, where people are expected to eat this way for months, if not years. This is really hard on a human body and a microbiome, and it's not health inducing for either of them. And yet we put people through this day in and day out in the SIBO community. And for what? Because we gave them this label based on a breath test that sucks? We put so much confidence in a test that blows chunks. It boggles my mind. So whether or not you believe you have SIBO, that's one thing. And I would encourage you to entertain the thought that you may not, in fact, have SIBO. But I'm going to end this video on a compromise, on the most positive message I could possibly muster for you. And that is, whether you believe that you have SIBO or you believe that you do not, or now you don't know what to think, actually might not matter entirely as much as we think. If you can shift from the model of SIBO, where it's a quantity thing, you have this many bacteria, you need to get down to this many, you just need to kill and starve to get there. If you can get out of that headspace, out of that model of SIBO, and pivot to the idea of building a SIBO-proof body, then it might not matter whether or not you say you have SIBO or you don't. If you focus on building a healthy, strong, resilient, SIBO-proof body, you can't go wrong. Because guess what? If you build a SIBO-proof body and you actually do have SIBO, you will be successful. And if you build a healthy, strong, resilient, SIBO-proof body, but in fact you do not have SIBO, you'll still succeed. And there's no harm, no foul. See, in my world of SIBO, there's no need for elemental diet and antibiotics, and there's very, very little need for something like antimicrobial herbs. We can get the job done, and we can get people healthy and feeling better with safe, holistic, easier to implement things, but you've got to be willing to make that pivot. You're not going to succeed clinging onto this model of SIBO and this model of kill, starve, kill, starve, kill, starve. If you were, you would have already been successful and you wouldn't be watching this video. So, long story short, the mistake is believing in SIBO itself. Whether you choose to receive this message or not might not matter. At the end of the day, I hope that you can make the change and focus on building a SIBO-proof body rather than eradicating SIBO. And again, whether you had the condition in the first place or not, at the end of the day, if you do that, it really won't matter. And look, I know, I get it. I'm just a stranger here on the internet. You don't know me from a hole in the wall. And here I am saying things that are completely different from what you've heard before. But here's the thing. What you've heard before and what you've done before did not work. If they did, you wouldn't be watching my video right now. You're not just here because you're a huge nerd and you like learning this stuff. You're here because you still don't feel good and you want to feel better. So I ask you, yes, this is different, but at the end of the day, don't you need something different? If the same old status quo was going to get you better, you would have already been better. If you're looking for something that goes a little bit against the SIBO grain and gets results and gets people better, helps people have flat tummies and great poops and eat FODMAPs without a care in the world, then I hope you stay over here in my little corner of the internet because I have a lot more I could teach you. I really hope I get to meet you someday in FODMAP Freedom. FODMAP Freedom is a heck of a journey, and I lead you through all of these SIBO mistakes and more. And I teach you how to heal your body and build a SIBO-proof body with the most natural, holistic methods possible. And me and my team are going to be there to hold your hand every step of the way. So if you feel like you've reached the end of what you're able to do on your own here out in the wild, wild west of the internet, I really hope that you'll consider joining FODMAP Freedom really soon.